here to learn. When you're saying leftists are supporting the fornication of children, people on the right don't do this, right? It's the leftists.
People on any side could do whatever they want.
So why
would I ever say that people on the right would never do something like this?
Why are you calling out the leftists specifically?
Because they're the ones who are pushing for this en masse.
How so?
I just told you.
By talking to you at a protest. When you go to a protest.
Okay, guys, first political debate on the show. Let's see how this goes. We got Cameron, who just came on, and Fabian, who's been on the show. So let's do this thing, guys.
Let's do it.
Let's start off with Elon Musk and Doge. You're in support of Doge, right?
I love Doge, and I love Papa Elon.
Ooh, and you're the opposite.
Well, Elon's famously not the best papa. Of all the bastard children that he sired, he doesn't seem to give them very much attention. So I guess you could call him Papa Elon because he does have so many sperm concubine babies. But I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk. I think that what he's done with the government is something that we're going to be seeing the consequences of for a very long time.
What did he do with the government that you said is going to be consequential?
So there's this thing, the Department of Government Efficiency, which we all kind of started calling Doge, which is so annoying because that was why he did it. He did it so we could call it Doge because of the fucking meme, and then everybody went with it, and I'm like, fuck. But the Department of Government Efficiency came in and started dismantling programs that I think a lot of people didn't understand were part of the agenda, right? I don't think when people were talking about that type of thing, they knew that cancer research that had been going on for 15 years was going to be getting cut. I think they didn't know that veteran benefits were going to go in and
wait, are you talking about paused or cut? Because they put a pause on a lot of things to reevaluate things. Cutting is a different thing.
So what do you think that reevaluation process looks like? So I'm all for Doge. Number one, let me just put that out there. I love what he's doing. I think that only he could have done it because he has such a, he's everywhere, right? He owns the biggest platform in the world, arguably in X. He has the most reach out of any individual, probably in the history of humanity. So anyone else going in there was probably going to get just destroyed by the left. But Elon, you can't destroy him because he just doesn't care. So I think he was a perfect person to do that. And we're paying $10 million for circumcisions in Mozambique. Like, what in the hell were we doing? Like, if you're okay with the USAID spending $42 billion of taxpayer money, and we have no idea, we can't vote on it, we didn't elect these people into office, they're just spending our money willy-nilly. I know the left likes to spend a lot of money. I don't know where you stand politically, but I'm not cool with that. So you're not cool with USAID programs?
Most of them, no. Absolutely not.
What's a USAID program that you like?
I don't think I like any of them, to be honest.
What about HIV prevention?
Now,
you're cool with the HIV thing?
So are you saying that we should pay for the whole world to have HIV prevention? Because that's really weird.
So I think
is that America first? I don't know where you are politically, but I would say that's not America first whatsoever.
I think it's definitely America first because when you are providing resources around the world, you're building soft power and you're building relationships with countries where you're going to be needing those sort of allyships. So when
What kind of allyships? Hold on a second. You're telling me that giving $10 million for HIV/AIDS to Africa is going to give us an ally in Africa?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then how has Africa been going with all these allyships that we've been creating and all of the humanitarian aid we've been giving for 50 years?
I'll tell you exactly how they've been going.
How's Sudan doing right now?
I'll tell you exactly how it's been going. A lot of Africa has been turning to China, and China has been gaining a lot of power.
So even though we've been doing all these things, they're still turning to China is what you're saying. We're spending all these dollars, and they're still going there. Clearly something's not working.
Well, China's been so successful because of the partnerships with other countries that Donald Trump has been eroding.
Are you talking about the Belt and Road Initiative? Because that's their initiative that they're doing.
That is certainly one of the most evil things in modern history, correct?
So you're against the Belt and Road Initiative?
Yes, correct. Very much so.
Okay. Well, me too. So that's good.
Yeah.
That was easy.
But listen, when you're using these types of USAID programs, I don't think the moral argument works when you're talking to DOGE stuff because there's nothing moral about going in and cutting veteran benefits and pausing cancer research, which I don't think that's how treatments work. I don't think
How's it been working out so far? Have we cured cancer in the last 30 years? It's the same argument with the Africa thing. We're pouring money into it. Have we cured cancer? Are we any better, or are there more cancers now than there were in the last 30 years? Do we not have turbo cancers in all of our youth right now? It's spouting up out of nowhere. So clearly something's not working. So
it's
reevaluating
the studies weren't done.
What studies weren't done?
The cancer research that's being cut by the DOGE.
What I'm saying is we've had cancer research for 50 years minimum, something like that, and we haven't solved it. So what are they doing with the cancer stuff? Where's that money going?
They're researching it.
Apparently not very well. It's been decades and we still don't have a cure for cancer.
Well, if you have any recommendations, I'm sure their inbox is open, but that's why we have these types of programs. And beyond that, it's so much more. I mean, the type of stuff DOGE is doing with disaster response, right? I mean, there are states right now that are having natural disasters that are struggling to get in touch with FEMA.
Oh, you mean like under Biden when he didn't shit for Asheville, North Carolina?
See, everybody likes to talk about that, and they don't realize that it was a Trump policy that led to that happening.
Oh, so it was Trump's fault.
Yes.
That FEMA was inadequate.
So when Trump passes policies that
during his first term.
Sorry?
Do you mean Trump in his first term passed a policy that affected Joe Biden's administration and FEMA?
I'll do you one better. He actually passed multiple.
Okay.
And when an administration passes something that inhibits government services from being able to help people, it turns out that those services aren't able to help people. And there's this thing that happens where the Democrats are so easy to blame for everything. And I would know this because I blame the Democrats for like almost everything. But very often when there is a crisis, MAGA world either blames it on the libs or says there's nothing that could have been done in the first place. And it comes to a point where you're like, at what point is Trump to be held accountable for anything? Has he done anything wrong?
Like, I mean, you're asking me specifically, or just a general population as a general question?
Well, I'd love to hear your take.
Oh, I think everyone does bad things all the time.
What's a bad thing?
Some
Trump has
things,
done?
some things they do bad, some things they do good. You have to take the entire totality. We're 100 days or so into his presidency. People were like, "Oh my gosh, the world is collapsing." It's like, dude, it's been 3 months. Relax.
So
let's see where it goes.
The European Union turning to China for investment and partnerships, and is that a positive?
To me, that's a capitalistic thing. If you think your company's going to be best served by going with someone who's going to give you better terms, why can't you do that? Are we to help? Are we to hold them hostage and say you can't work with China, or use what capitalists do and offer a better deal, a better program, a better product, and say, look, come back to us? And that's exactly what Trump did in his Middle East trip, where he raised over $1 trillion in investments from companies.
He quite recently threatened even more tariffs. Is that the better deal?
I love tariffs. That's how we were funded before 1914 or whatever it was. We were exclusively funded by tariffs.
So
and then we introduced the income tax and the Federal Reserve, and then what happened to tariffs? We still have them. Here's the thing. Joe Biden kept 95% of Trump's tariffs. A lot of people don't even know this. He kept 95% of it. He actually increased certain tariffs, just like the EV. He doubled the EV tariff on China. So it's not like Trump just came out and put a bunch of tariffs. We have the massive trade deficit that we have to lower. And how we're going to lower it? Either we increase taxes or increase tariffs. I'm all for increasing tariffs over taxes. I don't think we should have any tax whatsoever. So that's where I stand on that issue.
Well, are you familiar with the big, beautiful bill that just passed?
I am.
Yeah,
somewhat.
So it was the largest wealth, by many metrics, the largest wealth transfer from the poor to the rich.
Oh, this is always the same line. Every single administration, it's a wealth transfer. So you know what was a wealth transfer?
That's because
COVID. You know what was created more in COVID? More billionaires were created during COVID than I don't even know any time before that. So you're talking about wealth transfer. You're focusing on government, but look at what's happening in the regular private markets. Whenever we have a shutdown of society, all of a sudden all these billionaires are created. Why? Because they get government contracts to fulfill something the government can't do because it's inadequate, make a shit ton of money, and then they buy influence in politics, and that's why politics is so fucked up right now.
So back to what I was saying. In the new big beautiful bill, you've got the wealthiest people in the country gaining quite a bit of money, and you've got the poorest people.
What do you mean by that?
Let's take a look.
Sure, because in Trump's first his TGCA whatever, the Trump tax cuts, he actually increased. Black families saw an increase of $5,000 a year under the Trump tax cuts. There's never been such an increase in wealth in black families other than when Trump passed it in 2017. The beautiful bill just finalized that and extended it.
So in this bill, we will be permanently.
Hold on a second. Do you nothing about that? Like he literally increased black families' wealth from its taxes in 2017 by $5,000 per family. They have never seen anything that has elevated their income so much other than that specific thing. And no one talks about that.
So what this bill will do is permanently extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which benefit households in the top 1% more than twice as much as those in the bottom 60%.
What are you reading? What's the source?
Is what I'm reading.
Well, what's the source?
Fake news. It'll also increase the pass-through tax deduction for businesses from 20 to 23%.
And that's a bad thing?
Preserve the carried interest.
So companies paying taxes less taxes is a bad thing?
Sorry, increase the pass-through tax deduction.
Yeah, tax deduction. Tax deduction.
23%.
Yeah. So you're raising a tax deduction, so you're paying overall less taxes as a business.
Thus transferring the wealth even further. Moving on.
How are you transferring wealth if you're paying no. If you're paying less money as a company in taxes, how is that transferring wealth to someone else? Your company is paying less taxes, so you have more money to create stuff with.
Because this is the money that goes into the government services that is able to allow
that is running so efficiently, right? That we're spending $42 billion here, $10 billion there. So we should just give more money to the government because they're working so well. Look, I have a solution. If you want to pay more taxes, you know that every single person can write a check to the IRS on their own. You don't have to advocate for more taxes. If you have a bunch of money, just give some away. Be altruistic.
So how do you feel about this one? This will preserve the carried interest loophole, which allows private equity and hedge fund managers to pay lower tax rates than most workers. Trump has repeatedly promised to close this loophole.
Well, are you talking about workers like W-2 employees? Or what kind of worker are you talking about? There's a very specific, a 1099 employee, someone who creates things compared to someone who just works for a company.
So you think the private equity and hedge fund managers should be paying lower taxes?
I think no one should pay any taxes. So anything that's incrementally towards that goal, I am for. I think a tax is a secret. It steals our money from us, including inflation, obviously, which is a hidden tax. So no, I don't want any taxes whatsoever. Allow the government to run like it was initially supposed to be, very limited, very small, and efficiently. So look, I have a easy way to fix the entire problem. Instead of the government making all these tax loopholes and tax rules, making it so complicated so we don't know how much they're getting, where it's going, why don't we do this? The government says, look, we're going to not charge any taxes. And at the end of the year, we're going to tell you how much money we need to print in order to fulfill our duties or responsibilities as a government. That way, every single American will see, wow, you really need $3 trillion this year. That's how much you need. Instead of saying, well, we got $2 trillion from taxes here and tariffs here, because when you muddle it, the average American can't understand if it's working efficiently. If they did it this way, everyone would know, here's how much the government needs to print to fuck us over and to put money in their pockets. That would be a much simpler way to do it.
Okay, well, in a world where I understand what that means.
No taxes, government needs money. They print money at the end of the year and tell the American people how much they're going to print. It doesn't get simpler than that.
Yeah, okay, that sounds like a great plan. Can you explain it a little further? Because I'm very simple-minded.
That's fine. That's literally it.
That's it.
No taxes. The government spends money, right? They have a budget and things like that. At the end of the year, they tell the Americans, hey, here's how much money we need to print because we didn't charge any taxes, so we're not taking any money, but here's how much money we need to print in order to run the government for the next year or for the next quarter.
So when Trump
then every American would see exactly how much the government's spending.
So when Trump proposes $1 trillion Pentagon budget, you think that shouldn't be paid for?
You mean the DOD or the Pentagon specifically?
I don't care regardless.
Okay, well, it's a DOD budget. It's not specifically a Pentagon budget.
Okay, so do you think that our tax money should be going to that?
I think we need to defend. Yeah, absolutely. You have to have an army. You have to defend. Now, do I think a lot of that goes to the military-industrial complex? Yes. Do I think it should be limited? Yes, 100%. But in the world where you have China and you have all these things going on, what are you going to do, right? You have technology that the Chinese are advancing way faster than us. As far as we know, obviously, I know they have programs that we don't even know about. But when you have fifth-generation technology being held by Chinese now and working on sixth-generation technology, you have to do something. That R&D is incredibly expensive. Just one of those helmets in the F-35 costs something like $300,000 because it's specifically made for each individual pilot according to their specific measurements.
So you're cool with the tax money going to that?
I'm okay with the DOD having a budget. I think they spend too much, yes, but it's something that's necessary. More necessary than something like giving $10 million to Ghana or wherever it was for circumcisions.
Listen, I think that it is extremely important for global health to be investing in global health. I think that if we were more invested in global health, we would probably be seeing a lot less epidemics that kill a lot of people. And that is stuff that I'm totally cool with my tax dollars going to. When I have to pay my tax...
Epidemics that kill more people, like what epidemics do we have recently?
What epidemics do we have that USAID works to prevent? A lot of them. That's what USAID is for.
Like which one, though?
HIV.
Okay, that's new. Do we not have medicine that you can take? You can take a pill every single day?
We do. Other people don't.
Okay, so and we can't ship it to other countries? Like private companies can't sell to other countries and they can't use their money to buy these medicines? You have to rely on us?
We should be
Africa
providing
can't
those
be like,
things, yeah.
yo, 40% of our people have HIV. There's a little pill. You take it every day. You can have sex. You won't get HIV.
If we could provide those services for people, we absolutely should.
Meaning we as Americans pay for everyone else's health all around the world, except for ourselves.
Where they can't afford it, yeah, I don't mind. That doesn't bother me.
Okay, so who's going to pay for it?
The American taxpayer.
Okay, and are they polled?
Sorry?
Are they polled about this? Do they give their consent to have their money spent? Right? Because typically you vote in a person.
Well, you know
in
that
office.
a lot of these USAID programs that the DOGE is molesting are like very often bipartisan. As a matter of fact, they almost unilaterally receive bipartisan support.
And just because they're bipartisan, they're good? No. If something's bipartisan, most of the time it's even more egregious than one side taking it, because we have a uniparty in Washington, as you probably know, that's influenced by money and politics and special interests that codify these things into laws, which benefits that company. So yes, if it's bipartisan, I don't care. It's not like, oh my gosh, do you agree? So it's a great thing. No. That's when I'm even more scrupulous. I'm like, why does everyone agree on this one thing? Who's making money off it?
So what does a conservative senator have to gain from the United States offering services to people who are dealing with epidemics in Africa? A conservative who
if
supported
they're
that.
for it, maybe money. I don't know.
So
I
you
mean,
think that
that's
conservative
hypothetical.
politicians who were supporting USAID were getting paid by some sort of interest group?
Every politician's getting paid by some sort of
Okay,
interest group.
what interest group is paying people to
Well,
support USAID?
you're telling me a hypothetical that you're not even naming a specific senator. You're just saying a Republican senator, so I can't respond to hypotheticals and give you specific numbers. I have no.
But
idea
if
what you're talking
if
about.
I gave you the right Republican senator, you'd be able to tell me which interest group wanted them to support.
I don't have that kind of knowledge in my head. I don't have. I wish I did. I'd be like,
What
James Lindsay.
genre? What genre of interest group? Like what type of interest group is paying off Republicans to support USAID?
again, I have no idea the answer to that question. It's so specific.
Well, it sounds like
However,
you're telling a fairy tale.
No, it's actually you're the one saying it. You're saying that congressmen that do this for a certain reason. I'm saying it's probably money. That's the biggest issue in politics.
Money
is
from where?
Get the money from special interest groups
Interested in what?
and whatever they want to be interested in.
In preventing HIV in Africa?
That's exactly what special
The
interest
Preventing
is, right?
HIV in Africa
It's-
industrial
It
complex?
could be whatever. It's a special interest. There's people who are lobbying people to make sodomizing kids legal, right? Do you have these crazy leftist groups that are special
You
interests?
think leftists, you know that libertarians are the ones who are the most supportive of child marriage.
Was that like a poll or something like that? They polled libertarians and they're like, what were you talking about? They're making these grand statements without any foundation. I can't even respond to that.
But you think it's
That's
the
like me
leftists.
saying all trolls like
well,
the fact
you're
that
the one. You're
Lord
the
of
one
the
who
Rings
started.
and 2 is the
You're
best
the one who
movie.
started saying it's the leftists. So I would love to hear what you're pulling from there.
What's the leftist?
The
No, what I said was that everyone has special interests. The left is trying to codify these terrible acts into law, and they are a special interest.
what terrible acts?
I mean, look at the left. What are they doing? They're trying to break up the nuclear family. They're trying to make victimhood.
What are
and
they trying to
oppression.
codify into law?
I'm
that does
telling
that?
you right now, the government misinformation board under Joe Biden almost passed until the outlash from people who are pissed off. You understand that he was literally going to say the government can decide what is true and not? I mean, think about that. That was under Joe Biden, and I don't know if you know about this. It's called the Government Disinformation Board. And it was supposed to be, they were going to dictate what is disinformation and misinformation and what is true. And that came from the left. So that's just one example of many.
No, but you were talking about, you're saying something about like fornicating children that the leftists were supporting. I would love to hear you.
You did
explore
say
that
a
little bit.
leftist extremist group.
Yeah, leftists are trying to abolish the minimum age of consent. They're trying to abolish the fact, there's leftists that saying that you can marry animals. Did you know that? Because when you go to postmodernism, there is no objective reality other than what exists in your head. So whatever stupid bullshit you invent in your head, you can say, this is my lived experience. And if you don't agree with me, then I'm a victim and you're doing microaggressions and then you're an oppressor. That's the entire ball game.
So
That's all it is.
But we can't we don't know exactly how leftists are going for the fornicating children thing. That's just
Dude, have you not been to like protests and stuff? Do you not? So let me tell you what I
used
do.
to run protests.
Great. I go to protests all the time, sometimes as undercover, sometimes as just trolling them, sometimes debating them. And the stuff that these people are pushing for that I see all the time are some of the most despicable things that you can think about. And they are pushing for it. Not everyone, but there are, because the left is so fractured, you have so much, it's postmodern, so you can make up whatever reality in your head and start pushing for that reality to become a alternate version of our reality. This is Hegelian dialectical materialism. That's exactly what it is. So you have all these people pushing for all this crazy stuff. So yes, and I don't know if you've been there, but you should talk to some leftists because they're fucking crazy, man.
Oh, don't I know it? Yeah, but when you're talking about things like leftists supporting and advocating for, and frankly even working to make the fornication of children legal, you're speaking about it in the context of this is something that is happening systematically, not
I
this
never
is
said
something.
systematically. I said there's sections in the left
because the left is so fragmented. No one believes anything the same thing, right? Intersectionality, everyone has their own oppression in their own life, right? So it's not systematically. I'm saying there's people on the left who are advocating for egregious things, not just specifically that. It was just one random thing I talked about. A whole host of things, and they're trying to get into mainstream media and move the Overton window so we can talk about this stuff.
So when you say leftists, you're not talking about the larger progressive movement. You're talking about some people that you saw at a protest. Because if I went to
Actually, I'm not.
So what is the progressive establishment doing to support child fornication?
Well, you're progressive, right? I mean, you supported Bernie Sanders in 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you consider yourself a progressive?
I'm more progressive than
Okay,
your
so then you
average
should know.
Democratic
Tell
voter.
me, what's your side doing? What are they pushing for?
Well, I asked
Because
you.
I talked to people, and I just told you, and you're
No,
asking
but
what they're
I'm
doing. I
saying
literally
the
just told
progressive
you.
establishment itself.
The progressive
it?
establishment. I mean, I don't think there's much of an established right now.
Correct.
You guys are
correct.
going through a massive civil war
Correct,
right
but when
now.
you're talking, very true, and it is kind of a huge pain in the ass to watch. But when you're talking about, you're making this statement. I really want to make sure we can get. I have the best understanding here. I'm here to learn. When you're saying leftists are supporting the fornication of children, people on the right don't do this, right? It's the leftists.
People on any side could do whatever they want.
So why
Why would I ever say that people on the right would never do something like this?
Why are you calling out the leftists specifically?
Because they're the ones who are pushing for this en masse.
How so?
I just told you.
By talking
They
to
have
you at a
protests,
protest. When you go to
they
a protest
tell
to
people-
troll, when you go to a protest to troll, you hear some people say some crazy stuff. Same way that I've heard people say.
It's not just that I hear it. You see, I don't know if you've read. You might be in an echo chamber on social media. That's probably why you don't see it. But like,
I follow more right-wing people on social media than I follow left-wing
Okay.
people, mostly because I think it's funny.
So-
What were you saying?
leftists said there's no genders, right? Gender is a social construct. Imagine us talking about that 10 years ago.
I
You'd
don't
be
think-
like, dude, that's crazy. They're not going to do that. Oh, guess what? They did it. They're advocating for removing the age of consent from 18 down to whatever. Because in your head, you can be a 5-year-old if you want to be a 5-year-old.
Where are they advocating for that? And who is trying to pass that bill?
No, I didn't say it's the bill they're trying to pass.
So it's some people.
I
you
said
met
they're
at a
trying to
protest.
get it. Earlier, I mentioned that what you do is you start talking about what I would say are filthy things. You get it into the mainstream, and you try to normalize it, and you move the Overton window, which is the things that are acceptable to be spoken about in a society at any given time in history. You move the Overton window to the left, and that's exactly what's been happening. That's exactly why your side got destroyed in the election. And if you don't fix it, you're not going to win for at least, let's say, 16 years or so.
So the people at the protest who I'm at, who were telling me that the mass shooting at my high school didn't happen, the one that I was hiding from under a desk for several hours, would it be fair of me to characterize that as something that the right is doing?
Of course. But you think the right's not doing stupid shit too? Of course they are. And I fight against them too. Because I live in an objective reality, not in a collectivist mindset, not in a transgressive mindset, not in a whatever they live in. Both left and the right are basically the same people. They advocate for giving state control. They're statist. They advocate for giving all the control to an authoritarian power or authoritarian idea. And they force everyone else to not be individuals anymore. Fuck meritocracy. We're all going to be this kind of identity. And if you're not, well, you're shit out of luck.
So you're not for the centralized power?
No.
So when Trump is giving government contracts to Elon Musk while he's slashing regulatory
Oh,
programs,
like it's just Trump that gave Elon contracts from the government? I'm pretty sure NASA did it like back when Elon started SpaceX.
that wasn't my question. My question is when Donald Trump is cutting regulations and giving
Cutting
government-
regulations, okay, I'm for that.
great, and giving those types of programs to Elon specifically, that's a type of centralized
Wait,
power.
those
that you're
types
cool
of programs to Elon specifically, what types of programs are you talking about?
Elon has benefited in SpaceX from the Trump administration.
And under
United
Obama?
Sta-
And under Biden? Under Biden and under Obama did not have contracts under them as well?
Well, they weren't ripping shit up in order to give it to Elon.
Do you know that the only way that Americans can get to space is on Elon's rocket? Otherwise, they have to pay Russia. Do you know that we used to pay $11 million for the Soyuz rocket to get a trip to the space station? Once we decommissioned a space shuttle in 2011, you know what the Russians did? Oh, you can't get up there? Oh, now it's $80 million. We were paying $80 million to the Russians per ride to the Soyuz, or to the space station, until Elon created the Dragon capsule. So is he getting government contracts? Absolutely. Do we have any other option to get to space? Absolutely not. Even NASA can't do it. NASA tried to launch, even Boeing tried to launch their capsule. What did it do?
If Boeing did it,
stuck.
if Boeing did it, it would have exploded and it would have killed the whistleblower.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm supposed to say that.
Oh, yeah, no. Boeing's notorious.
We can all agree on that one. I
They're
think.
notorious for that. That's for damn sure. Yeah, that we agree on. That's for sure.
Yeah, Boeing, if you're listening to this, I was kidding.
Yeah.
Boeing, I own your stock, so chill.
You own their stock?
No, but I got to say that. 'Cause they don't
yeah.
off me.
And you should all buy Boeing stock. All three of us collectively endorse the purchase of Boeing stock. And if there's anything else you could do to support, just write a nice letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Boeing. You guys should sponsor the podcast. All right. You guys ready to move on from that?
Yeah.
Deportations. You're for them. I'm assuming you're against them, right?
I'm against them without due process. I'm not against deportations as a concept.
So Trump offering to pay for their flight is not sufficient enough for you?
Well, that sounds like a waste of government money.
Really?
That sounds
How
like the
so?
type of if Biden was doing that, I feel like there would be an outrage on the right. If Biden was spending
If Biden was deporting, there'd be an outrage.
Biden
If Biden was
deported-
deporting, I would have voted for Biden,
Biden
if Trump wasn't running
deported
against him.
so many fucking people. Obama deported so
Obama
many
did
fucking
deport
people.
a lot of people, more than Trump, and the left doesn't talk about that.
The left doesn't talk about that because it does not conveniently serve the narrative that we all want to drive. And yet Biden and Trump were. And if you look at the Harris campaign's platform on
If you can call it a
deportation,
campaign.
if you look at the Harris effort,
Yeah.
no, that's a big word for it
Dumpster
too.
fire.
If you look at Harris 2024, the Harris Brat Summer,
Yeah.
if you look at their policy on immigration, one of the things that I noticed while I was looking at the Harris campaign was that the Harris, we're just going to say campaign because it's easier.
Yeah.
The Harris campaign's policy on immigration was not extremely different or actually noticeably very different from Trump's at all. I mean, Trump has obviously gone way further than what he said he was going to do. And this
You
shit in
think?
El Salvador.
I don't think he's gone as far as he said he was going to go.
Well, from a
He doesn't have the
policy
money.
standpoint, absolutely. From a rhetoric standpoint, it's different because the shit that he was saying he was going to do that I think a lot of people shrugged off as just inflammatory, he's doing. He is very much being they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, Donald Trump, which somehow the eating the cats and dogs stopped.
But why?
Conveniently,
Why is that? Hold on, it had nothing to do with the debate. But why is that so out of the realm of possibility, dude? I've eaten dog in Vietnam. Like people eat dogs all over the world, especially in poor places. So why are they like, oh, they're not, dude? The guy in Haiti, the leader of Haiti, barbecue, he literally is eating body parts on camera.
Is he still in power?
I think so. I think the Clintons
Wow.
kept him there to take
You
the
serious?
diamond. Yeah.
The Clintons kept barbecue in power.
Probably, man.
I don't think
Probably.
I don't think that timeline aligns. Because from what I understand, barbecue was
Don't the Clintons still run Haiti? Doesn't like their daughter? She sat on this massive board and they're taking all the minerals from Haiti and they have all the contracts for stuff like that. It's insane.
I can't say that I'm aware of what boards Ms.
Chelsea,
Clinton
yeah.
sits on. I can say I don't think Chelsea Clinton was putting barbecue in power. I
don't think
that,
she was either.
I think that
But I
Haiti
think-
being a complete failed state, and there was some effort, I don't really remember what it was, with the UN to send Kenyan troops. And I believe what happened was they sent Kenyan troops funded by the UN into Haiti to try and gain some sort of control over these gangs.
Yeah.
And they just got completely ripped. And the Haitian police is obviously just, if not an extension of the gangs, completely incapable of dealing with them. And that's the type of situation where I don't know what the fuck anyone's supposed to do. Because when we get involved in Haiti, famously, it always goes to shit. But the way that these gangs have consolidated their power, the way they control the airport, it's crazy. And the craziest thing, and this is completely off topic, is that next door in the Dominican Republic, they're fucking vibing.
Chilling.
Crushing it.
Chilling.
It is so odd. And a big part of it, I learned this on a YouTube video, so it might not be true, was the deforestation from when the French had colonized Haiti. They made it so the sediment in the ground wasn't strong enough. And therefore, when the hurricanes come in, Dominican Republic has this forest cover that's able to keep them a lot safer. Whereas in Haiti,
Wow.
they get these landslides, the ground is fucking falling apart. And of course, France just kept Haiti colonized financially. And
Like they do with Africa.
like they do with Africa in the Coup Belt. Have you heard about the Coup Belt?
I haven't. Have
There's
you?
a section of Africa right now where there has been a series of coups fighting off the French. And
Yeah, Ibrahim Traore.
that I don't know. I
Okay,
can't say
so
I
he's
know
basically
Abraham.
a 34-year-old guy in Africa from Burkina Faso, and he did that exact same thing. He's like, we're going to cast off all the Western colonizers, and guess who cozies up to him now? Putin. So he's like, great, I got one.
Well, the Wagner Group is like all over Africa right now.
They're destroyed. They're destroyed it in the Ukraine. They killed the main guy.
Damn.
I do remember seeing that.
Yeah.
From what I've heard and what I've read about the Sudanese civil war, which is kind of hard to really tell because we have such a limited access to information about that. This is a Joe Rogan-ass conversation. What I've heard about the Sudanese civil war is that there are Wagner troops and Ukrainian troops on the ground there fighting a proxy war.
Wow.
It seems as though Russia loves their proxy wars in Africa. And it's like historically all these other countries trying to maintain some sort of dominance over these governments doesn't go very well. But everyone's like, nope, run it back. We're going back. And now,
like as long as you're getting all the minerals out of the land, why would you want it stable?
I mean,
right?
I'm pretty sure my iPhone comes from there, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot probably comes from
you were talking about the Kamala campaign before we went off on this.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say on immigration, like she was huge on cracking down on the border. And it was like a very big thing. And by the way, there was a bill that I hate to use the B word, but was had bipartisan support that the Democrats and the Republicans were both completely behind. Chuck Schumer said, put it on my desk, I'll sign it. That was heavily cracking down on the border. And then Trump made a bunch of phone calls.
Wait. You mean the one that said that after a certain amount of people every day, I think it was like 5,000 people or whatever it is, then Biden could make the decision to shut down the border? You know that doesn't solve the issue whatsoever, because all it does is it keeps incentivizing people to come to the border. And after there's a certain number of people that cross, they say, okay, guys, we're closed for today. Come tomorrow. Every single day. I mean, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And it's so surprising to me that so many of the MAGA conservatives were behind it. Do you think that
were they? I don't know. I haven't spoken to a lot of people specifically about that bill.
Yeah, it had full support. And again, I don't want to throw around the B word too often, but like everybody was behind it until Trump
let me ask you a question.
made a bunch of phone calls and he said, kill it so he could pass it.
What's the problem at the border? Like what's the main problem at the border?
The problem at the border is that we don't have the resources to help the amount of people who are coming in.
No. The problem at the border is people were incentivized to come to the border in the first place. If you incentivize something, people are going to do it. That bill didn't address the main issue, which is making people not want to come to the border. They had all these little other provisions of like, okay, we can shut it down if we think it's too much for the day. We can do a little this, a little that, but it didn't de-incentivize people from coming to the border. You could still come, you could still get a free flight anywhere you want in the country. You still get a free phone, you get a card, you get money. The UN tells you basically how to get in from the Darien Gap and go all the way up. It wasn't addressing the problem. It was a terrible bill.
So the people who were drowning in the river trying to cross through, they were incentivized. They were told, pull up, you're going to be traversing extremely deadly terrain where you might very well get murdered by gang members and everything, and then come over here and we'll take care of you.
Yeah, because people will do anything for a better life. It's not just right now, it's across time. It's why people traverse deserts, because you have to stay alive. And if we have the best country, of course we want to come here. And if you're saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be dangerous, but you come here, we'll give you your credit card, we'll give you a phone, we'll give you a flight anywhere, and we'll pay for all your housing at our expense. Why would you not? I mean, I would. If I was, I'd be jumping that border as fast as I damn could. But you have to de-incentivize that action, and that bill did nothing to do that, and that's the problem with it.
Where was the housing?
You don't know about us paying like tens of billions of dollars for illegal housing?
I'm familiar with the hotels being rented out and shit, but is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, housing for the illegal immigrants, in the form of hotels, in the form of whatever they can fit them in, and who gets those contracts? Who gets those government contracts?
Yeah, I don't mind that, to tell you the truth.
You don't mind us spending money housing tens of millions of illegal immigrants?
I am much happier with people housed than I am with them unhoused.
Americans or illegals?
I am happier with any human being who is somewhere on the street, being somewhere there is a
But
door.
would you prioritize American citizens or illegals first?
I would prioritize whoever is available. Like, I think housing should be built for everyone.
Yeah, but who would you prioritize first? American citizens or illegals? Because we've been prioritizing illegals. And if you're okay with that, then just say it. That's completely fine. I am not. I think the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of people homeless in California, yet we're bringing in more illegal immigrants and then housing them with our taxpayer money instead of actually fixing a problem where Americans don't have houses themselves. And then you're taking tens of millions of people into houses, so increasing the market rent for people because there's less of it. I mean, that in no world does that make any sense to me.
I think that immigrants are a very important part of our economy.
And they are. I agree. Legal immigrants.
Yeah, well, I think illegal immigrants are an extremely important part of our economy. I think that without illegal immigrants, a lot of different parts of this country that work will not be working as
So
well.
so Americans can't work or what?
Americans don't work the jobs
Why?
that illegal because they don't want to.
That's a very blanket statement. There's a lot of Americans who aren't even in the workforce anymore because they can't find a job that pays wages. Now, if we're going to raise tariffs on stuff and then incentivize companies to actually bring manufacturing back here and pay American wages, why would I not want that? Why would I not want the country to be stronger?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we don't even know how to make. Like Trump's talking about getting iPhones made here, and iPhones use chips that we don't have the technology or capacity to make.
Not yet. But
I know.
those are made in Taiwan, which is an ally for now until China tries to take it over. That's why they're moving manufacturing here. The one thing I do like that Biden did, I don't know if it's going to work out,
CHIPS Act?
but the CHIPS Act. Now, I don't know if anything's been done. I don't think they've broken ground, but IBM, put a bunch of money behind it. It's something that had to be done. So that I do agree. I do like that Biden did it. I don't know how he's doing it, so I may not agree with that. But in theory, we need to move manufacturing back. Do you think China's going to let us keep Taiwan?
Well, if Trump is trying to move iPhone manufacturing here, especially since he was threatening to tariff specifically Apple, which I don't think you can, actually, I know it for a fact that you can't tariff specific companies. That is not how tariffs work. Not that Trump seems to know how tariffs work. But if he's going to be putting this large tariff on Apple, which is kind of a huge part of how a lot of people in this country live their lives, to bring manufacturing here to make stuff that we don't know how to make, that doesn't seem like good businessman stuff. That seems like sloppy, emotionally charged.
So
Trump
we should
behavior.
let China continue to manufacture these parts with slave labor. Meanwhile, they are the largest contributor to climate change in the entire world, accounting for 32% of all emissions. China. And it's done with no freedom. It's done with slave labor. And it's done with repressive laws and no freedom of speech. So if it's between allowing China to make all this stuff and then we make all this money in America, we send it to China, and then China gets to use that money, come back, buy influence, buy houses, buy companies,
Farmland too.
farmland. Like, what are we doing? We're getting cheap stuff made by slaves. We're giving the money to that country. The Communist Party is then buying assets and influence in America. Meanwhile, it's the largest emitter of climate change. In no world does that make any sense to me, and that's why I'm so for tariffs.
I love that you are putting the worker before the consumer, because I am always in support of putting the worker before the consumer, and the consumer would never be able to buy an Apple product again, unless, of course, they invest in Bitcoin, which officially endorsed by the Digital Social Hour
Yeah, shout out to
podcast.
Bitcoin.
But so if we start doing these iPhones, which again, putting a tariff on one specific company is not how tariffs work. It's the same thing as when Trump was tariffing movies made in other countries, and it's like Trump came out as the president of the United States and said that he was going to tariff movies made in other countries.
Yeah, I remember you said that.
Yeah, you can't tariff services. You can tariff goods.
Okay, but you're not addressing you're
No.
you're
I'm
pointing
getting
out
to-
small things.
Totally. But, it is worth noting that there's a lot of emotional sloppiness to it. And that's what I think motivated this I'm going to tariff Apple thing, which is just another one of those things where you could tell how unserious Trump is. And you could tell how poorly planned all this is. And you could tell that he's not running this ship by people before he
But
tweets
again,
it.
sorry,
Because
you're pointing out things that he said and say this is what he meant. This is why it's not good. I just pointed out to the fact that China is the biggest emitter of carbon emissions, uses slave labor, they have no freedoms, and you just bypassed all that and you're talking about Trump. Like,
what
dude,
I'm
that's a massive issue.
Well, what
that's
I'm
huge.
I agree. I think that the way that China treats their workers is absolutely devastating. I also think that it's why the consumer is able to buy these products
It is.
at the price that they are. So I agree that the American consumer should be paying way more for their iPhones because we should be using labor practices that are safe, which I don't believe libertarianism is very in support of, by the way. But I do think it's worth noting that it is, in fact, the average American who is going to be paying for that. And it's not as though bringing all these jobs here is going to make the country some sort of a bastion of technological development.
It's not. How is moving more jobs here not going to make us better?
Well, I mean, we've been doing AI here, and China came out and fucked all of our AI to death by introducing one that's faster, cheaper, and more efficient. Like, bringing jobs here to make chips that we don't know how to make for iPhones that are going to cost $7,000 is not going to make us...
Hold on a second. Chips are used in many different things. You have the microchips and you have the slightly larger ones that Taiwan makes. There's like this logistic chain of like 40 countries or 28 countries, including Germany, that makes all of the photovoltaic, I can't say the word, But you have this massive logistic chain that creates these chips. Why can't we make them here? What
That's
is
a
it
good
about
question.
that? Because that's exactly what the chip tax is addressing, and that's what Donald Trump's addressing.
I know.
There's no barrier to making the chips here. It's just the fact that it was cheaper over there, and now they're like, okay, guys, we got to make them here now.
The barrier is that we don't know how to make them.
We actually do know how to make them.
So
It's just the fact that we don't have the capacity to make them because we don't have the factories built yet, but they're getting built.
And do you think that the labor practices there are going to? What do you think are appropriate labor practices for a factory like that?
In America?
Yeah, or anywhere.
What do you mean?
Well, okay, let's say so we're building chips factories. We're making $7,000 iPhones, and
Well, you're assuming a lot there, but okay.
help me figure out what I'm missing.
Oh, I have no way.
Sorry, we're building $6,000 iPhones, and you are in charge of the labor protections for the workers because we need to make sure they're not being China slaves, right?
You mean like every other company does already in America?
How so?
Well, we have like laws and stuff like that, right? We have OSHA, we have things that protect workers.
And you're supportive of labor laws?
I think people should have the right to work and be comfortable in work and not be exploited. So that's just a general statement. If you're asking me specifically what part of OSHA I agree with, I can't get into those specifics. But yes, I agree that workers should have. What, do you think they shouldn't?
No, I think they should. The libertarian stuff, I get confused because it's
No,
very...
I'm not libertarian. I don't know if you thought I was.
Oh, I totally thought you were.
No, not at all. I'm not libertarian.
Oh, good, because libertarians are confusing, especially
Yeah, no, I'm not libertarian.
especially in terms of...
What would you label yourself, Fabian?
I would. So I was a classic Democrat, classic liberal Democrat. By the way, I saw that you liked Andrew Yang in 2020. I was a Yang gang too.
You were Yang gang?
I love the way that he talked about things in different ways, such as why are we estimating the prosperity of our country just off GDP numbers? We should include health. We should include all these other things like mental health. Like that makes so much sense. Stuff like that. These new ideas that people just don't want to try them, and that's why I love that Trump's doing it. He's like, look, clearly something's not working. We got to try something. And here's the crazy part. So we just started the Trump presidency, right? In 3 years, let's say that everything he does makes America incredibly stronger and everyone's a lot happier. Everyone's healthier with RFK doing all these things. What is the left going to fight about?
Wait, sorry. What is RFK going to do to make us healthier?
Well, he just removed COVID off the vaccine schedules for healthy kids and pregnant women.
Right. And that's going to make people healthier.
By not getting I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get you shadow banned.
I'll bleep it.
Yeah. But yeah, do you think that we should be getting more vaccines to make us healthier?
I think we should be getting whatever the doctors recommend we get.
Who tells the doctors to recommend stuff?
Here's the
No. Who tells the doctors what to recommend? The pharmaceutical companies and the pharmaceutical reps.
Well, what about the Surgeon General who RFK just appointed who doesn't have a medical degree?
Kaylee Means?
Is she the one who says she talks to trees?
I don't know if she said that, but
She's the woo-woo Wiccan?
I don't know. We can't talk to trees?
The one who dropped out of...
I mean, I talk to myself all the time.
The one who dropped out of medical school because she said it was too stressful, which, by the way, real as fuck. I would do the same thing. But she's RFK's pick.
Okay.
How is the medical school dropout going to make us healthier?
Well, I just said one of the
By
things
being
that
anti-vax.
I just said one of the things that we did to try to make people healthier. Number one, I mean, like, are you not okay with making America healthy again? I just want to gauge. I don't know where you stand on that. Are you okay with artificial food dyes and corn oil in all our foods and sugar in all our foods?
I think that it is very important for us to monitor these things. I personally believe that this should be free enough of a country where the companies that are making this shit should be allowed to do what they want, as long as there are regulations.
So you're a free market capitalist then? You're a free market progressive capitalist.
I am totally for free markets when they are regulated, because there is a way to have free markets that are regulated.
Which is what we have now. We have a massive regulation. Yeah, sure.
But I think that what RFK, who is one of the most unqualified people in the history of the United States government, says about...
In the history? Like even more than Kamala? Who was vice president?
Kamala Harris has experience.
In
RFK
what?
Jr. is a Nepo baby who has cried and sounded like he's choking on sand for the past several years.
That's crazy. I've never met anyone who hates RFK for trying to make America healthy. That's wild to me.
He's not. He's spread more medical misinformation than I think anybody in his position in history.
Really, like what?
RFK Jr. is one of the most dangerous people in the United States of America right now.
Clip that right there. Holy shit! I don't know what world you're living in, but I don't know if you know, but we're not too healthy right now.
He's making an autism registry, trying to get to the bottom of what causes autism, because there have been more people reported to have autism in recent years now. What some people might say,
Yeah,
is that it's the-
sorry. In fact, it was 1 in 10,000 in like the 70s. Now it's 1 in 36, and in California, it's 1 in 32 kids have autism. Now, what's changed since that time?
The
vaccine schedule
the
went from like
ability
20 to over
to
100
diagnose it.
vaccines.
The ability to diagnose it is why more people are being.
So you think people were
diagnosed with
dumb
autism.
like 20 years ago and didn't know that this existed and didn't catch it?
I think
like no
that-
one knew what autism was.
I know several people right now who are almost definitely autistic that just haven't been diagnosed. Like in the 70s, they were not diagnosing autism the same way that they were not diagnosing.
Yes, they were actually. In fact, a bunch of states did really deep dives. I think Minnesota was one of them, if I'm not mistaken, into autism. Many states did this, and that's where they got the 1 in 10,000 number. Now it's 1 in 32, 1 in 36. So
because
what's
more
changed?
people are getting diagnosed.
Because more people have it, maybe?
Well, because
You think millions of people had, and like, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I never saw someone with autism when I was a kid. Never. I never ran into an autistic person one time in my life.
I'm
now-
willing to bet you actually ran into a lot of autistic people that you just didn't know were autistic, because I think you're characterizing something that's a spectrum, a very vast spectrum where people behave extremely differently from one another. I know people.
You know autistic people when you see one, especially when
that
when
is
it
the
gets
most
bad.
absurd shit I've ever heard
Really?
in my fucking life.
If you see an autistic person, you don't know they're autistic?
My little brother, I see, and I say, "Oh yeah, Holden's autistic." I know several other people who
But you
have
just
been
said,
diagnosed with
but you
autism.
just said you can't do that.
I said that you cannot identify the people on a vast spectrum. I know
Maybe the ones
I know-
that aren't like
I know my young-
slightly, but you know an autistic person when you see one.
So you think that this 1 in however many 30-something number of
One in
people
36 or 1 in 32 in
are
California.
a type of, I mean, it's so crazy talking about autism like this because it's such a wide spectrum and there's so many people who have it that aren't diagnosed. So I truly don't even know how
Dude,
to.
it's terrible. Like, wouldn't you want to get rid of that? And if vaccines could be
Vaccines
the main,
do not cause autism. Every reputable doctor in the entire world has it on very good authority.
that's a
through
big claim. Every
peer-reviewed-
doctor in the world
I
said
said every
this?
reputable doctor.
What does
As-
that mean? Reputable to who? By who? Who defines that?
Peer-reviewed studies by people in the medical field
Oh,
who
you
do
should read more
not talk to
peer-reviewed studies
trees
then,
like
man.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s person.
Yeah, you should
Robert
read
F.
more
Kennedy Jr.
studies.
who goes for little swims in like toxic lakes. Did you see that?
That's crazy. So you think that, okay, does bad food cause autism? Or is it just, is it like the universe that, you know, if you believe that the universe came out of nothing, it just happened? Like it just randomly happened? There was a genetic mutation in
The universe just randomly happened? I believe so, yeah.
okay. So, I mean, we don't have to get into the philosophical thing, but how does something come from nothing?
How does something come from nothing?
Yeah.
From what I understand, the Big Bang.
Yeah, something came from nothing.
Correct.
So how does that happen?
Are you asking where autism comes from?
No, you said, I'm just asking a question. How does something come from nothing? So if autism, what came out of nowhere, it just like appeared
No, I'm saying it was there the whole time. Less people were getting diagnosed with it.
in the same, at the same level that we have now.
Well, I'm not a scientist, but the
No,
answer
but
is
do you think it was the same level?
I do not think any increase that exists in any way, shape, or form is in any way, shape, or form tied to vaccines, food dyes, anything like
So
that.
no environmental impacts is done to the body by diet, food, air quality, what you put in your body, vaccines, none of that
Oh,
is contributing.
I totally think that like microplastics are why I'm going to die of cancer when I'm 56. That's very different than saying like vaccines cause autism.
So it's just plastic that causes bad things to happen, not
There's
vaccines, not diet.
There's asbestos. There's
Heavy metals.
that sounds bad. I can't speak to heavy metals, but look, I think that regulating the amount of toxic things that go into food is great. I think that ought to be done.
So
I think
hold on,
that
this is crazy. I'm
using
sorry.
that as a
I can't-
Trojan horse to suggest that vaccines cause autism.
I can't get over it. You're okay with pumping 100 vaccines into a kid by the time they're 3 years old, and you think that's making them better?
I am.
You think
very
the human
hap-
body is that stupid that it can't like survive like we've done for however long we've been here?
I'll tell you this. I know one reason I don't have polio right now, and that is vaccines. Would you like polio?
That vaccine was actually had human trials in it, and it ran the entire gamut of the way they should do things, unlike the COVID vaccine, which they got an expedited approval because we needed it ASAP.
Okay, so the COVID vaccine happened in 2020. By the way, that Donald Trump was enthusiastically pushing. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
Operation
because we
Warp
thought everyone was
Speed.
going to die because they did a really good job at convincing everyone that it was the only way out of the disaster.
So
Just like climate change.
They played
it's the
Donald.
same
Wait,
thing.
I'm sorry. They played Donald Trump for a fool. They got Donald Trump
Probably.
touting
Probably.
Operation Warp Speed.
If everyone around him, including Fauci, is telling him this is what's going to happen,
You think Donald
people
Trump
are
was
gonna
listening
die.
to Fauci?
I think it was listening to everyone, and when everything was happening, I think he did get duped by a few people, and that's why I'm so glad that this second term, he's cleaning house. He's not dealing with that crap anymore. So yes, would you think a president's not he's not told a million things every single day? Of course he is.
What do you think makes somebody in Trump's house worth getting out of there? Like if Trump's cleaning house, because he was surrounded by all these negative influences in his first administration, what qualifies someone as somebody who ought to be purged?
Oh, I don't know. That's him. I don't know what he does for that.
So Trump, just because he has this great judgment, has been able to figure out what went wrong in the first administration and root it out.
Yeah, right. Like if you do something once, you make mistakes. You do it again, you make less mistakes. I mean, that's just life. That's like
Okay,
playing
so
video
when
games,
Pete
right? You
Hegseth-
play video games, you lose.
When
You do the
Pete
level again, you
Hegseth
win.
was drunk texting Yemen war bomb plans in the Signal chat, was that a mistake?
Probably
Okay, when he did it again, was that a mistake?
after he knew that it was a Telegram group that people from the media were in. You're saying he did it after he knew that?
Hegseth leaked Yemen war plans twice.
Okay, well, it wasn't war plans. He said we're going to like bomb the shit out of him or something like that. He wasn't saying, hey, like this is exactly what squander we're going to use.
But we
to
shouldn't
hit this
clean
and-
house from Hegseth. He's good.
No, that decision Trump has to make on himself. I mean, you're writing in a chat. You think that he knew that people from the media were in that chat? You think he knew that and it was like, fuck it, let me just write all this shit anyway. Like, what are you talking about?
So just to be clear, you're Donald Trump. You're like Hegseth stays.
It's his cabinet. He does
What
what he does.
about Kash Patel, the FBI director who showed up to the budgetary hearing without a budget? That sounds like a mistake, right?
Oh, I love Kash Patel, man. That's Papa number 2.
So he's using government resources to travel to UFC fights and to go see his country singer girlfriend in Tennessee. Do you think that should be doged out of existence, or do you think he's cool?
If he's using taxpayer money, what do you have proof of this?
He's using the FBI plane
To fly to the UFC.
to fly to UFC games. No, not just that, also NHL.
So he landed in the FBI plane when he went to UFC. You're saying this for a fact.
I
Like
don't know
you've
if
seen
it's UFC
okay,
or NHL.
okay, but
Well, let's go through it.
that's the thing. That's the thing. You make these claims, but you're just like, oh, I don't know.
I know. That's why I'm going to look it up.
That's that's why I like actually just talking about what I know, because if I start talking about stuff I don't know,
We could fact check it.
He has used it. He has used it for visiting his girlfriend, attending hockey games.
okay,
and
but
other
again, you
sporting
can't just
events.
read something random. Like I don't know what
is
you're reading.
CBS News random to you?
Yeah, it's pretty random.
CBS News.
All news is random to me,
Okay, well then,
including I mean on all sides.
so I shouldn't even go further into the things I'm reading on CBS News about.
Yeah,
this
are there
because it's-
pictures? Is it corroborated? I mean, what are we
want
talking about
You
here?
want pictures of him in the plane? Do you want pictures of him at the UFC
Yeah,
match?
some
I can
kind of
find
proof. I don't know what that article is.
Well, I mean, CBS is kind of regarded pretty widely as a reputable organization.
Yeah, depends who you're talking to.
Okay, well, when you're
Just
talking,
like when you say reputable doctors all say that vaccine don't
correct.
cause
As a matter of
autism.
fact, like almost every single one of them. And I don't know a reputable doctor who's ever said there's any link between vaccines and
So
autism.
how many doctors have you talked to around the world? You said every reputable doctor around the world says it doesn't do it. That's a massive claim.
I do this thing that the Make America Healthy Again movement doesn't seem to enjoy, which is read. And the peer-reviewed studies that I've seen suggest that there's absolutely no
You
link
said
in there.
every single reputable doctor around the world, worldwide. Like that's a massive claim.
I know.
Because they're talking about who gives that reputability, and you're saying you've looked at all these things. Now, if you said a lot of doctors I've read, that I can agree with. But you're telling me every reputable doctor worldwide?
Every single one.
Like that's
yeah.
like saying 99% of dentists approve this toothpaste. Like, come on. You can't say broad claims like that and just be like, everyone around the world does it, so it's right. There has to be a reason why autism has gone to the level. There has to be a reason why turbo cancers are sprouting up everywhere, especially in young kids. There has to be a reason. It's not random.
With cancers, oh my God, you've got, again,
But you said
microplastics,
environmental. You
you've
said
got-
environmental factors don't cause autism. Food doesn't cause autism. You said that your health, whatever you're putting into your body, your vaccine. So what
increases?
causes cancer then? Increased cancer.
So are we talking about cancer or autism right now? You want to talk about cancer?
Both, because you said that it doesn't cause autism. So does it cause cancer?
Well, one of the things that causes cancer is a lot of the environmental stuff. That
But you
Trump
just
is-
said, I just asked you, and you said it doesn't cause autism. So
I'm
but
saying
does it
that
cause
fucking
cancer?
food coloring doesn't cause autism. I'm saying that the ability to diagnose more people with autism is why more people are getting diagnosed
So,
with autism.
so does bad food cause cancer?
I can only imagine that microplastics in food cause cancer. I can only imagine that like toxic runoff that Trump's administration obviously does everything they can to make sure goes out there as much as possible. I think those things cause cancer. Totally.
So not the food you put in your body.
Not the food that I put in the food I put in my body is filled with plastic. I'm pretty sure I'm going to die of cancer because of that.
Okay, so remove plastic out of the equation. The food, besides the plastic, the food you put in your body, could it cause cancers?
With lead and preservatives, I could see that.
Okay, but not autism.
No.
Why?
Because when doctors study and review these things, they clearly outline the fact that autism is something.
So doctors have said that bad food causes cancer, but that bad food does not cause autism. That's what you're saying. That's a claim.
That is the boldest assertion I could possibly make.
You just literally said that.
Underline.
You literally just said that.
Said what?
That bad food can cause cancer.
Well, autism and cancer? Listen, I'm not a medical science genius like RFK Jr. or his dropout pick for Surgeon General, but autism and cancer are actually famously different things.
Okay, I understand that. That's why I'm asking you. If you're saying food can cause cancer, but food can't cause autism, I simply asked you why. Why can one cause one thing but not the other? If one is a deviation from the norm.
Because they are different things.
Okay, so you're saying that like
autism is not cancer. Autism and cancer are extremely different things.
But you're saying that in biology, food can alter one way of living life and then cause something, but food cannot alter another thing and make it something else.
Not autism.
Okay. Well, that's a bold claim, man. I don't know how you justify that.
That's actually one of the most normal claims people make. It just happens to be that in this administration, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump,
that's why we have more autism? Like
no. That is why it is being considered with any sort of legitimacy in the government that this absolutely insane autism shit, that, by the way, gets a lot of people who are neurodivergent in harm's way. They are making an autism registry list where they are using private information, including information from...
That's what medical companies do. They use your information. That's exactly what they do when you answer questions.
So when the United States government does it, it's cool. When RFK Jr. is using private Medicaid information to make an autism registry.
I haven't heard this, so I can't validate it. I don't know if you're telling the truth or what you're basing it off. I haven't heard that he's doing that. I've never not seen anything about that. So until I see some proof, I don't know. I can't really explain. I can't really respond to that.
Well, let's find some proof.
We got to wrap this up in a minute or two. So you guys want to end on this, or you want to end on closing comments?
Yeah, we could do like closing comments.
Okay. Yeah.
We did not cover what I wanted to talk about.
I don't know why we talked so much about fucking vaccines.
I only asked for 2 topics the whole time.
According to NPR, which could be fake news.
We went all over. Once you said RFK, I saw his eyes light up.
According to NPR, which could also very well be considered fake news, depending on how much crack you smoke, the National Institutes of Health will use information from federal health insurance programs, Medicare and Medicaid, to create a, quote, real-world data platform to determine the cause of autism. That's cool.
So what do you make of that?
I think that they are using information that is a huge violation of people's individual liberty to try and find the cause for something.
If it's personalized, if it has that identified information, or if it's just stripped of all the metadata and just the facts.
I don't know what RFK Jr. considers to be a fact.
Well, no, you're talking about that the NIH goes and they get all these studies from pharmaceutical companies. Now, if there's personalized data in there that identifies you, like metadata and stuff like that, yeah, absolutely, that's a violation of privacy. If it's stripped of all...
Going for Medicaid information is a violation of privacy.
Well, you don't think Medicaid uses their information to come up with reports all the time?
I don't think that it is something that people like RFK are touching. No.
So the NIH could do it, but once RFK gets inserted into it, now it's bad. Because we've been doing this for a very long time.
I mean, I think you can say once RFK gets involved with it, it gets bad about quite literally anything, including Cheryl Hines' interactions with Donald Trump, and I will agree with you. But no, I don't think that RFK should be able to create an autism registry. I think that that's exactly the types of stuff that the Nazis were doing.
Well, again,
they were creating registries.
You haven't validated that that's actually happening, so I'm just going to assume that it's a hypothetical at this point until I see proof, because I can't respond to it.
I don't know what you consider proof.
I mean, you couldn't find anything. You just tried to fact check me, and you didn't find anything.
I was reading it from NPR.
Yeah, that RFK is doing you actually, what you said was very different than what you had said. What you read is different than what you said.
I'm so curious as to what the discrepancy was.
What you read me didn't say that he's creating a database of every individual who has
autism. Anyway, I'm tired of talking about autism.
Yeah, let's end off with closing comments and where people can find you guys. That was a fun time.
Yeah.
Start with you, Fabian.
So I believe one of the biggest problems in the world right now is that identity politics has been taken over by the left, and they've really propelled it to the top where everyone's either an oppressor or oppressed. And if you're born in the wrong skin, then you're actually a bad person. Like if you're born with white skin, you're a bad person. You can't escape that. So then they're able to get you into their wrath the rest of your life. I think that people need to just stop doing this leftist stuff. Get over the postmodernist stuff. Get over identity politics, critical race theory. Go back to a country that values meritocracy. It's just me and you talking. If you're a good person, I treat you like a good person. You're a bad person, I treat you like that. That's what I think the left is fundamentally failing at so bad, and they don't know how to get out of the hole that they've dug. I don't see any moderate voices coming out of the left, or I wouldn't call it the left, but more of the centrist, classic liberal Democrats, because they're overshadowed by the people screaming on TikTok for clicks. And I think that's the fundamental problem that you guys are having right now. And if you don't fix it, I don't know how you're going to win, especially if Trump's going to make America great in the next few years. If he does that, I don't know how you win. But anyone can find me on Instagram. It's the Fabian Garcia. That's about it.
My Instagram is at Cameron Kasky. I don't recommend you follow it, but you're welcome to if you'd like. And our podcast is FY Pod, which I don't like that title, by the way. I think that one of the biggest problems in the United States right now is that narcissism is more popular than ever. People
I agree.
Are obsessed with centering themselves in everything. Kindness has become the counterculture, and the most dominant thing in the culture is the putting the interests of yourself in front of the interests of supporting the people around you. And I think that that applies in a micro and macro level. I think that people have divested from seeing the opportunities to help others, and I think people are centering themselves in everything, and it is a damn shame. And if you're curious as to whether or not I'm right, go sit on a fucking airplane right now and see how many people are watching TikToks without their fucking headphones in, and you will realize that we have become the most narcissistic world I think it's ever been. And with that, I say, please go support Boeing on behalf of all three of us.
Bars. See you guys.
Yeah.